けど久しぶりにバイブス上げてこう嬉しそうできるスイカ
Oh my god, I'm activating my negator power unignorable, meaning you can't click away from this episode of the Castaway Anime Podcast. I'm Neon Manta.
I don't think it works like that, but I'm Crunchy Bagels.
Is that not how the rules of... quite literally the rules work?
I feel like half of the people who just heard that went, I bet, and then clicked off the video. That's exactly how I would react, by the way. If it was just a random video and they said that, I would do that exact same thing.
Oh, damn. Well, then, if the retention time of this podcast dips after the first 15 seconds, you know why then.
You know what? It's
okay.
It's an experiment.
We literally
like
can't have a worse episode than the Boy and the Heron one. It's only up from here, baby.
I haven't actually checked how that one did. So
It hasn't even
do
broken
that.
100 views yet.
Oh, well, that's pitiful.
And we struck while the iron was hot too. I don't know what's happening. Even the JJK season 2 videos have been doing better.
Well, maybe we can get dead lucky on our Undead Unluck pod. I messed it up. I messed it. There's no going back.
we might be striking the right niche here. Yeah, we are talking about the first episodes 2 through 8 of Undead Unluck, because we talked about the first episode on the fall seasonal podcast that you can click the card in the top right hand corner to go check out. No one's not really talking about this show.
The only video I've seen about it is Spuddles, but I also don't look around AniTube that much, so I wouldn't I'm not the best person to ask about this. I could look it up right now, but I don't watch much AniTube.
I checked the Undead Unluck search on Twitter, and every post I saw had I think I saw one get over 1,000 likes, but that's it. Like, everything else, it looked like it was all very niche. I feel like it had a very popular premiere, because I saw it trending for the first time when episode 1 came out, and everyone was praising how good it looked. But as the season has gone on, it's kind of faded into the background. And granted, it has the wildly unfortunate disposition of being sandwiched between Frieren and the second half of JJK Season 2.
Undead Unluck ようこそユニオンへ
Yeah, true. But the question is, does it deserve more hype? Does it deserve to be the biggest show of the season? Because this is the one that you put top of your list on the seasonal rankings when we watched the first episode back in whenever we did the seasonal podcast. And so you were clearly hyped about it. And I put it as number 2 under Frieren. So we were both hyped about it. How does it hold up is the question of the day.
Well, I stand by my case that if you were to compare just the first episode of Frieren to the first episode of Undead Unluck, I would have told you that I thought Undead Unluck's first episode was better and made me more excited to check out the rest of the show. Not to downplay how good Frieren's was, I just thought Undead Unluck's was just that much slightly better. But now, having seen the first 8 episodes of Undead Unluck, I am prepared to say that while I still like it, I am liking Frieren more.
I think we agree more than I expected. My experience with Undead Unluck, episodes 2 through 8, which is what we're covering, was an odd one to say the least, because I was, putting my hands together, I was pumped up to watch some more Peak. It was gonna be, an X-Shaft director, it's a show with a premise I love, the characters seemed like they'd be really interesting, and I watched it, and it was surprisingly not as good as I expected. The specific curve is episodes 2 through, I'd say, 4, 2 through 4 were kind of a bit of a valley, in the shows and like my level of engagement. And then after episode 5, it's been slowly climbing up to become more and more peak as time goes on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that my enjoyment of it ever like valleyed like for a stretch of multiple episodes. I do think now that Andy and Fuuko have joined the Union, and now they're going on these quests to accomplish the main goal of Undead Unluck, which we'll get into later. Now that we have like a structure and a goal to work towards, in addition to our already established goal of killing Andy, or finding a stroke of unluck big enough to finally kill he who cannot be killed. I feel like we're heading on the right track of getting into a lot more interesting scenarios.
Well, when I say valley, I do need to reiterate that, like, it's comparable, like, comparative to the first episode. It's not like, oh, I watched these episodes and went, this is terrible, this is a 1 out of 10. Isekai is a 1 out of 10. This is leaps and bounds ahead of that. But compared to the first episode, I was definitely let down a fair bit by that stretch of episodes in particular. And it still hasn't reached that peak of episode 1 again, to be fair, but with the way it's climbing back up, and it feels like it could eke out another episode as good as that one.
Yeah, I agree that it has not reached the soaring highs that was episode 1, that had a mix of some slightly powerful emotional moments, lots of good laughs, and a lot of great action and animation in that action choreography. Now, as the show's gone on, you can kind of see firsthand that the animation quality has kind of gone slightly downhill. It's never gone into the realm of, oh, this is like horrible to look at, except for one really glaring spot that we'll get to in the spoil arc in the latter half of this block. But it's been pretty competent all this time, but I can definitely see why it has slowly faded into the background, while Freeran and JJK, who have been killing it episode to episode, has been launched to the forefront.
I mean, I guess we can, do you want to start with visuals and directing? I know
I
probably
feel like
normally
we have
start
to,
with
because
plot.
my main thought of Undead Unluck watching it was that those tweets where people say that meme tweet where it's like, tweet like you're being held hostage, or like someone's holding you at gunpoint, and trying to act like someone you'd say something you'd never say. The whole time I was watching this show, I was like, if Crunchy Bagels does not make a video on Undead Unluck, so like before before July of next year, then he has been replaced by an imposter. Because there's no way what is the closest thing to a Monogatari related show since Call of the Night will come out in anime, and he doesn't talk about it outside of the podcast.
Well, you might be surprised to hear this. I'm 50-50 on whether or not I want to make a video on it. I'm holding out for the next block of episodes before I make that decision. Mostly because of just my overall passion for the show, which, once again, is rebounding, so it's seeming more likely. But, okay, so the directing. There are a lot of, like, you can tell this is from an X-Shaft guy.
Oh, it's all over the place.
Yeah. So, there's head tilts, like, not full-on Monogatari level, they're breaking their necks level head tilts.
I saw a couple. But I saw a couple of those. It's not as frequent as Monogatari, but I saw a couple that paid lip service.
Yeah. I mean, if you're familiar with shows like Sunegatsu no Lion and Monogatari, you can tell the shots when they happen. Even if they're not literally...
Like, Shen is just straight up a Monogatari character. Every time he triggers his power by opening one of his eyes, and the camera cuts to like a black scaled shot of him where like his face is all like black and gray, but you see his hair is the blue of his hair and the blue of his eyes, and it, like, opens up. The contrast is so high.
Yeah, there's a lot of eye shots, And like the beginnings of some episodes, particularly episode 3, feel straight out of a Shaft show with all this, all these close-up shots of clockwork and the altered color palette. And a lot of the shading, even as minor as that is, the way the characters are silhouetted in like this, it's very hard to describe because I'm not necessarily in the know when it comes to animation and art style and know all the terms. But I guess very flatly shaded, where, instead of having multiple different tones, like here's a slightly lighter shading, and then here's a slightly darker one. It's all just the same sort of lightly yet darkly shaded bit, silhouetted against whatever the background is. And there are some shots that, where even the elements are arranged in a way that wouldn't feel out of place in Monogatari, which I'm fairly... I know I'm bringing up Monogatari a lot. I'm pretty sure Yuki Yase only directed one arc of Monogatari. I'd have to recheck that. It was also the worst looking arc of the entire show, just to throw some shade. But I'm fairly sure
we got the lesser Monogatari director.
We did. He's minor enough that I didn't mention him in my Call of the Night video, but I'm fairly sure it was Yuki Yase that directed.
I could have sworn you brought up when you in that Call of the Night video. You brought up Itamura. What's the guy who dropped off the face of the planet only to come back?
Itamura, Oishi, and Shinbo.
Oishi. Oh, okay. I could have sworn you mentioned Yase in passing.
I don't think I mentioned that he. I probably listed off him with a bunch of other Monogatari not Monogatari directors, a bunch of other Shaft directors, but I did not mention him along with the other Monogatari bros, because he was brought on for literally one arc in the middle of second season. And it might not even be him, I might be misremembering, but I'm fairly confident that it was Yuki Yase.
Yeah, by the way, Yuki Yase directed the first season of Fire Force. He directed Makaku City Actors, one of the Hidamari sketch OVAs. Let me see, which Monogatari did he direct? He directed where is it? No,
he isn't like a full-on, because he isn't the full-on director for Monogatari second season. He might even be listed as an episode director.
He's episode director of 2, 4, and 11 of Nisei Monogatari. And then he directed, he was an episode director on Monogatari series second season, 16 and 20. And it looks like that's it.
Is it 16 and 20 or 16 through 20?
16 and 20.
16 and 20. So maybe I have the wrong guy then. Maybe it was someone else. Because I could have sworn there was someone brought on during Monogatari second season. Because I read a Sakuga blog article all about it. Well, not entirely about it, but it referenced it.
He, for second season, he storyboarded 13, 16, and 19, but he only directed 16 and 20.
Alright. So, yeah, he has done some work on Monogatari then. Maybe I have the wrong guy. I'll have to look at it after the podcast. But the point is, he's from Shaft. He's from that, pool of creativity. And he has their style in many ways. There's a lot of moments where the lighting will go, and this is a very specific thing, by the way, where the lighting will go very pale and, very, very harsh and contrasty to show like a character's inner thoughts typically. And it's very Shinbo-esque lighting, where it feels straight out of, I'm pretty sure it's called The Helltaker.
Yeah.
And yeah, just very pale lighting, which isn't even an Itamura thing or anything like that, or something of that like the other directors do. This is very Shinbo-like, very his style that Yuki Yase, I guess, also gravitates towards. And I do like the directing. I do like seeing it in action. That being said, it's a little rougher than, let's say, Call of the Night. Call of the Night was, in my opinion, a better directed show by far. I think the way it used because it was less Shaft
And Monogatari,
right?
yeah. You could tell it had like the inspiration, but not like just like a straight up copy.
Well, I wouldn't even say this is a straight up copy, because straight up copy would have to be
Straight
weirder.
up copy would be like, yeah, they'd have to put in the unfinished frames of like storyboarding and animation and whatnot with the director's notes and all that shit.
Well, it's not even a
Like,
straight
if
up copy of like overall Shaft style, because the unfinished frames are solely a Monogatari thing that was Tatsuya Oishi's invention. But
okay.
But, like, he isn't even a copy of that, because, like I said, the paled out colors, maybe this is in another Shaft show that I just didn't watch, because I haven't seen Makaku City Actors. I have seen the first 2 episodes of the Zadagoto OVA, which Yuki Yase directed. And there, by the way, in episode 5 with the rounds table, there are some shots that are straight out of Zadagoto, with the dinner scenes, or not even just dinner, but like the meal scenes in Zadagoto where all the characters are there. I'm pretty sure it was dinner.
I did pop off when in the most badass way possible after landing in the round table. Andy and Fuuko clinked their little vodka shot glasses together as their way of slamming their dick on the table, being like, "Yo, what's up? We're part of the union now, bitches."
Yeah, although the specific shots I'm talking about are when it's circling through every single member of the table and stuff like that. It looks exactly like Zadagoto OVA, except less. Except in here, it feels natural and not like it's trying too hard to show off the CG backgrounds, which I don't even think the scene had CG backgrounds. It might have, but
it definitely had CG other things.
Well, yeah, I mean, but in that way, Yuki Yase is definitely improving as a director, because I actively dislike the way the Zadagoto OVA is directed, whereas here, I like it. I liked those shots at the table that paid homage to the Zadagoto OVA, while doing it better and less flashy and less distractingly. And
I really overall like the pacing for the comedy in this show. It's very also Shaft-esque, where it's characters like against a colorful non-diegetic background, just reacting to other things a character will do. My favorite one being when Fuuko, Shen, and Andy are driving up to the walled-off city of Longing, Las Vegas, to go deal with the little zombie outbreak there. Shen's like, "All right, we're gonna need to figure out a way in," and Fuuko looks over at Andy and says, "Hey, Andy, what are you doing with that?" He says, "The wall's in the way." It just shoots a fucking RPG into the wall, blows it up, and the reaction between Fuuko and Shen as the zombies come pouring out. It got quite the guffaw out of me.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of fun moments of comedy directing. What my issue with the directing, there's 2 things. One is that the storyboards are consistently a little more awkward than something like Call of the Night, where I think with that every shot felt so natural in the way it connected to the next. It just like Call of the Night feels very tight and, smooth in its general pacing of shots. I can't say this in ways that are technical, and I'm sorry for that. And also, it's been a while since I've seen Call of the Night, so maybe I'm just misremembering. But the way I've watched a fair bit of Call of the Night to get that video out, and so and I was paying specific attention to how shots connected into one another in order to make some of the points in that video. So I'm fairly confident in saying that its sense of shot composition and the way they flowed into each other was generally more solid than this show. A specific example I can draw from, and I'm pretty sure I have it screenshotted. Let me see if I can. Yep, I think yep, that's the one. Where God, this is so specific and it feels like a nitpick, but I'm bringing it up solely as an example. There's this one shot where Fuuko and Andy are facing off against the pink-haired girl. I don't remember her name, but she has a cute hat. And it's like
Gina?
Gina. And their face...
I adore her hat. It's
her
wider
design,
than she is.
her
but, like,
design
as
is
flat-
so good.
It's like if you took a turban and instead of you flattened it and then you stretched it out.
It's a mushroom hat. I always called it the mushroom hat.
It is a mushroom hat.
And they're both facing off against each other with the water she's making float in the background, and the lake behind them, and the two pictures. It should be a cool shot, but something about Gina's placement within it doesn't feel quite natural. Like it feels like it should be a bit more dynamic and cool looking. Like they're about to have this cool face off, but she's just kind of standing there with her arms to the side, just sort of vibing in the corner there. And whereas Fuuko and Andy look totally ready to pounce, and so it was that sort of. It felt like there was an emotion that could have been brought out, that was attempting to be brought out, that wasn't quite done as well as it could have been. There's small things like that throughout. I took a note of a few others, but I'd have to actually go through my pages of them.
I will say that outside of the comedy, there was very few bits of directing that really like jumped out at me. Like, oh, this is cool. I think my favorite from the overall arc of at least the block of episodes that we've seen so far is when once again when they're still in the truck on the way to Longing in the spoil arc, where Shen is like, hey, do you want to listen to the audio from the guys that we sent to investigate the zombie outbreak? And they play it, and then you see Fuuko's reaction being intercut with various close-ups of the inner workings of the car, like the various parts of the dashboard.
I did take note of that. That is a great moment. And
yeah, and just like and they I think they did like a little fisheye lens with it too, to like so it's not just like a flat shot of the dash. It's like bulgy, and it makes it so that way every time it cuts to a different part of like the guy screaming and being like, oh god, they're everywhere, and like everything like that. It's all like this information overload that makes you stressed down, puts you into a panic to match what Fuuko's feeling. It was very good.
Yeah, and even that feels, like it harkens back to some moments in Shaft where the thing it reminded me most of is Bakemonogatari episode 12, even though I don't think Yuki Yase worked on that. But nonetheless, when Senjo Gahara is whispering in Araragi's ear and it shows like the car, going faster, the revolutions per minute going way up, and like it's going faster and faster and intercutting between those, like it felt straight from that. And here it was, instead of being used for comedy, it's being used for horror, and the most effective instance of horror in the show, I'd say, because we don't actually, not to say it's a horror show, but
no.
It sets the tone very appropriately for that moment.
Yeah. While watching the show, let me ask you this question, because you are the between the two of us, you are the Shaft and Monogatari authority. Would you describe Undead Unluck as the one of two things? Would you describe her as the next Shaft or Monogatari-esque show that we've been missing out on, reminding us of the Shaft heydays, or would you or would you also describe it as the Shaft shonen that we've that I don't know if people have been asking for it, but would you say that, hey, if you like Monogatari and you like shonen, do I have the show for you, buddy?
I mean, it's complicated because when I think because granted, I have always wanted a Shaft shonen. I think that would be awesome. When I think of what the ultimate dream is, I think something that is as visually bizarre as Shaft's other stuff, but applied to a long-running shonen, which I think would be awesome. So, in that sense, this is more so a step towards my dream. But I also think, the other thing I was about to say about the directing, all those pale shots, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think they connect all that well with the show's usually vibrant color palette. I feel like there was a way to make it work better.
I think, are you talking about like because the ones I remember most are when they zoom into close-ups of Fuuko, and when they go all pale and
Yeah.
monochrome. Usually they sell to make Fuuko, because Fuuko's kind of like the closest thing we have to an audience insert, the closest thing we have to a normal person reacting to everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's a way it could have connected better, but as it stands, it feels a little out of place, I'd say.
I think it makes for a nice contrast. I remember using it enough so I recognize it as a stylistic flourish that they use for her, but they didn't beat it. I don't remember them using it so often that they like beat it into the ground.
Well,
That's
no,
like,
they
okay,
didn't
well,
beat it into the ground. I mean, I just feel like it feels a little disconnected from everything else, but I don't know. I mean, clearly this show had a tight as hell schedule, so they're probably doing the best they can with what little pre-production I imagine they had. Because I feel like with
you
more
can tell they were
pre-production,
like, all right, let's classic anime. Let's put all of our resources into the first episode so we can hook the most fans into it, and now we will slowly be unable to put as much time and effort into all the other episodes, but they'll have sunk cost fallacy themselves into keeping up with it because they're already this far in. Damn it.
yeah, so I guess we can use this as a jumping off point to talk about the animation as opposed to the directing. Which is to say that it's not bad. It can still put out
I would go as far to say it's a step above average on average, except for when we get to the CG zombies and the spoil arc, and then in which case it goes.
Yeah.
Because they're
CG
atrocious looking.
The CG zombies. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of zombies. You might need to use CG. But oh my lord, they suck all the tension out.
It's like, oh, by the way, like, yeah, I get there's a lot of zombies, but also, Beat the Fuck Out by Zom 100.
Yeah, I mean, Zom 100, it had some CG zombies, but they were always in the background and hard to notice, and it did its best where if zombies are the focus, they're animated, and they always look at the very least passable. Whereas here, it's all of them.
It's all in the
so
forefront.
Goofy.
Very rarely are they not CG.
There was like one shot of a zombie child
God.
walking by that was drawn, and then pretty much everything else is CG.
Yeah, thank God that the bride was made 2D the whole time. Can you imagine how goofy and tension deflating the scene of her running towards the spoiled monster when blowing herself up with the unluck would be if she were 3D?
The zombie bride is one of my favorite things about that arc, so if she was CG, I think that the arc would have like gone down an entire point on that basis alone. Like in my overall scoring of it. Just deduct -1. Zombie bride was CG.
Yeah, the another point of animation that I just noticed went downhill, at least it still looks okay, but not as great as it did in the first episode, was the blood jets that always shoot out of Andy in order to fly. They were like really had the sense of fluidity and like gooiness, and there's like a hard edginess. You can tell it's like highly pressurized. It's like actually like jet shooting out of him in the first episode, but now it just kind of seems like he's leaving behind a red like contrail more than he's like actively like shooting it, like propelling him through the air.
What I noticed more so was the slow degradation of the art quality, which,
yeah,
like for the first while it wasn't so noticeable. Once we get to the spoil arc, there are some shots where you can tell they needed more time. Like they need someone. They needed someone to go through it again and correct those shots, but they did not have the time for it.
I can already imagine the Blu-ray edition corrected shots in my head right now on some of those shots.
I know I took screenshots of them, so let me see if I can pull them up.
I didn't take any screenshots. The one I remember most though is it was Fuuko, and I think she was talking to either Shen or the child, like, 'cause I can't remember if she was looking up or down at someone, but it looked like someone had taken her and put her into Photoshop and scaled her down, but didn't like link the scaling so it was uniform. It looks like they scrunched her height but kept her width the same. And there's
There's
like
the
someone took her
one
from a 100 height to an 80 height, but kept her width at 100.
I'm looking through my screenshots. There's this one shot of like the family, like the daycare girl who becomes the zombie bride. She's walking with the children. The kid, the blonde kid, has this uncanny smile. I don't know how to describe it.
See if you can post it here. I'll make a note to put it on screen right now.
Post it, yeah. But it's like it feels like a parodical depiction of a happy child more than anything.
I wouldn't call it uncanny, but it is very goofy that he's just got like his body is angled in a way that looks like he's like walking, supposed to be walking that way, but his face is facing the camera, but his eyes are looking off to the side.
It's very odd. And
Also, the camera in the overalls is just staring directly into our souls.
Oh, here's another shot, because this entire sequence clearly needed someone to go in and do corrections. So here's another shot that I pulled from it, where everyone just looks a little off.
Yeah, okay, maybe it was the kid she was talking to when I was referring to that Photoshop thing earlier. Yeah, this this looks very rough.
Bro, this looks like the final few episodes of Tomozaki level art quality. It's rough.
I don't know why why he's looking straight down, almost like looking at her chest, while she's like has her face cocked to the side and looking. You can tell that she's looking at him, but almost looking past him.
Well, I get why he's looking down, because he's sort of he's emotional right now.
He's going through it.
Yeah, he's going through it, but it's just the entire mood is off.
Yeah.
Well, like, the lighting is cool, but the art just sucks out a lot of what this shot could have communicated.
While watching the show, between the Shaft-isms and Monogatari-isms that go on throughout it, and then seeing the actual like shonen-ness of it, like the power systems and the character interactions and whatnot, it got me thinking. And then I remembered who was making the show, and then it all clicked together with me. This is Undead Unluck is what happens when you fuse JoJo's with the visual presentation of a Shaft show.
I mean, yeah, kinda, because the powers are ridiculous.
Yeah, in the mechanics of the show, this is like almost like it's everything but stands. Like these are stand powers, but without the cool visuals of having like the stands next to you to represent the powers. It's basically stand powers without the stands.
Well, I like the idea behind the powers, because okay, so the idea is we're fighting, generally speaking, negators. In the spoil arc, we fought a UMA, which is apparently different from negators, but still something that is out of the ordinary in this world and therefore must be purged. But negators, and this is what I like about them, they negate something. And the goal of any fight is to see what they negate and then find a way around that. And like, on the one hand, it's a little semantic, because it's like, okay, what's the specific word that they negate? And it has to get really, really specific, and sometimes you wonder, like, okay, how did Andy even guess that she negates change? But on the other hand, the powers are very fun, and the mystery of, like, what is she even doing? Why can't Andy hit her? Why is she making water float? That is interesting to me, and I like the ideas behind the powers a lot. And I like that they've already jumped right into weird stuff, like once again, she negates change. That's weird as hell. but it's also interesting to see it play out. And interesting, albeit kind of silly, the way she's defeated.
Yeah, well, it's cool how they describe it too, because what does it mean to deny change, to negate change? Well, the air is technically constantly changing, just like you moving your hand up and down causes the air around it to change around it. So she uses her power to stop the air from changing, and in doing so, she can take pockets of air and stop their change in specific shapes, so she can make shapes out of them. Like she can stop the air around her into the shape of an arm with a big hand, so that way she has an invisible arm straight out of fucking Elfin Lied to hit you with. She can harden the air around. She can stop the air from changing around her in a bubble to make a barrier. She can stop water from changing, so she can make it solid and walk on it and carve stairs out of it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I enjoy the power system in this show.
And like JoJo stands, each power that's overpowered as it may seem at the surface can have a counter to it. Like how when they defeat Gina, they realize that okay, her weakness to her power is that when she covers her barrier, she has to have a spot around her feet, because otherwise, how would she be able to move in it? So what they do is that they get her. They have her stand on water, which while she can make it solid around her, can be liquid all the way. Can be like malleable all the way around it, and so air can slip through. So they slip a sword underneath and flip it around, and then Fuuko can launch Andy's unluck-stricken head inside. And because they figured out with a flashbang that while normal grenades, their impacts can't get through the barrier, light can, because light's not a solid. So a laser from a Union UFO can shoot through the barrier. And that's how they're able to get past this seemingly impenetrable obstacle. And it's that kind of thinking man's fight that makes it fun to watch. Much like a JoJo's fight.
Yeah, I do like the idea of a thinking man's fight, as you put it, and the way that strategy is used. Although I did have the question in my mind, because it felt like that hole in the barrier was flipped up for a fairly long time. I was like, can't you just make it so that hole doesn't change? I don't know. But
I don't know, maybe she has to keep it open, otherwise she can't breathe. I don't know.
It definitely felt like that could have been explained better. Maybe have some other mechanic that makes it so she can't immediately cover it up. Because as it stands, I was like, just block the hole. You have the power to do that. Block the hole. It took so long for Fuuko to throw Andy's head in there. Block the hole.
I don't know. Maybe it was a thing where it's it looked more drawn out than it was, but in real time,
that was my immediate thought. I mean, she still has some reflexes. Block the hole!
And then she can use air around her mushroom hat to spin it into a saw blade of death.
Oh, well, that's just cool. It's goofy, but it's also so fun.
Her goofy ass attire isn't just fashionable; it's functional too.
Yeah,
and she's not even 16. She's actually 66. She defeated Andy 50 years ago and fell in love with him, and she just cakes on the makeup because as her power is unchanged, she hates change and wants everything to stay the same, including her appearance when she met Andy. So she just cakes on a shit ton of makeup to make herself and acts like a 16-year-old, even though she's actually 66. And that's a fun character trait.
Well, it was a little unclear because apparently the Union also has anti-aging technology. Maybe the anti-aging technology is the makeup, and it's super duper pooper scooper effective, and doesn't wear off as easily. That's all I can imagine. I wasn't entirely clear on it.
It's probably that, because realistically, no amount of normal makeup could make a 60-year-old look like a teenager.
Yeah, I mean that's goofy logic. So I imagine it has to be the Union anti-aging technology is the makeup.
Yeah, there's so many I love how the show gives us does what any good shonen does. It teases what someone's power could be and then lets us like theory craft our own ideas, and then when the time is right, tell us what the power is. Like they do with Shen, where his when we first meet him, all we can glean from it is that it involves having you in his line of sight from a certain range, and like he's constantly changing the opening of his eyes. Like one eye will be open one way, eye will be open the other way the next shot. And so whenever he does that and someone's in his vision, someone takes the opposite action of what they're going to do. So it's like, well, how does that work? Why are they doing that? And then we find out that his power is in fact untruth, where once he has made the target, like he's become fond of the target, he can, once he gets them within their range, he can make whatever any conscious thought that's like, okay, I'm about to throw a punch with my right fist. Oh no, now I've thrown a punch with my left fist instead. Or I'm about to run forwards. Oh no, I'm getting his line of sight. Now I'm running backwards to where I started from. Yeah, that's really cool. And we have the entire Union, who all of their powers are specifically covered up from us, the audience, and we can only gleam into what they can be from like the little things that they do. Like the guy with the glasses and the coat, Billy, he uses guns, so maybe his power involves ricocheting bullets some way, a la Mista from Part 5. And there's this one girl in a giant circular mech suit that has a bunch of shields and lasers. Maybe there's a reason that she has to be in this body, or maybe that body uses her powers in the best possible way. And the fucking helmet girl, Juiz, I think her name is, with the long hair, when she, I think, looks at you similar in a way that Shen does, because we only see it happen when her helmet thing flicks up to reveal her eyes. She can make you move in a way that it looks similar to Shen's powers, but makes you take a more drastic action. Like when Andy was gonna raise the sword to the Union, he ended up pointing the sword at Fuuko, and then the mech girl pointed her little laser blaster at the gun guy. So we figure out like what are all these powers and how do they work. That's what a good shonen does.
Yeah, and going back to Shen's power, I like what his powers say about his character, because he specifically has to like his opponent. And that concept to me is really cool, where it's like, oh, you're trying to kill me, but I just love you. You're so powerful, because he wants to find someone who is more powerful than he is, so that he can train and better himself. Because his dream is to become the best in the entire universe.
Yeah, he specifically wants to be the greatest in all creation. He is in fact, and with his power pole from Dragon Ball, he is quite literally the Goku of this show.
Yeah, and I just like that character trait. I think it's very fun to have for what is so far a side
Chinese
character.
twunk.
Twunk. I literally had the thought.
Hunk.
I literally had that thought in my mind the entire time, where it's like, how is he both a twink and a buff man at the same time?
I'm sure we'll dive into his backstory one day, but for right now, he's just basically Goku, but a little more unhinged.
So, what do you want to talk about next? Because I feel like we've gotten most of what we can out of the power system, unless we want to go into specifics.
Yeah, we can now dive into like how do we feel about like the main character dynamics and whatnot from what we saw from this arc.
Okay, so I guess this is where I come in.
Oh god, here comes the hot takes. Brace yourselves, we're going DEFCON 5.
So, episode 1 made me think that I was gonna absolutely love their dynamic. And there are elements of it that I like. There are also elements of it that I don't like. But there's this overall prevailing idea I have in my head while I'm watching it, where it's like, I feel like this should be more charming than it actually is. And I feel like their interactions should make me smile a lot more often than they do. And I have some ideas as to why that is. I'm not I don't have the 100% airtight theory crafted yet. Perhaps I'll come to that more as we watch the next block of episodes. But I guess there's a few disparate thoughts that I have that I want to relay, and maybe in doing that I can come up with the final ultimate theory. But I guess we'll start with what I think you can agree with me on, which is okay. So in Frieren, when I was talking about my honeymoon period with the show and how, maybe after 12 episodes, it's slightly fading, but with the chance of it coming back at any moment as soon as it has, like, an arc of 6 to 8 episodes, however long it wants to be. Just have this, well-developed, fleshed-out arc, and then, we're right back in business. If my honeymoon period with Frieren was just beginning to fade after 12 episodes, with this show, it faded less than 2 minutes into episode 2.
You didn't like the second episode that much?
Well, hold on. I'm being very my time frame is very specific here. Less than 2 minutes into episode 2. Probably less than 1 minute. I'd have to go back and check. Okay, so let me set the scene here. At the end of episode 1, there's the scene where Andy's like, "Hey yo, Fuuko, if a kiss did that much, how about we do the naughty?" But what I liked about that scene was that, he starts chasing her, right? But then he laps her. And what and I'm pretty sure you also thought was supposed to be communicated by that moment was, oh, he's not actually a reprehensible person. He's just a goofy goober who, he is very brash and, arrogant, and he shouldn't say that either way. He shouldn't literally terrify this poor girl, but he doesn't care. And, that's just a part of his character. He just likes fucking with people.
Fuuko is very bullyable, and he goes on to say as such multiple times throughout the show.
But at the same time, it's like, it's the kind of assholishness that you can get behind. Where it's like, oh, he's just running past her. Like, this is just what Andy, he likes to. Yeah.
That goofball.
Anyway, apparently we read into the scene a little wrong. Because episode 2 starts with me like, okay, that was fun. Anyway, I want to die. And, Fuuko has to come up with this whole thing of, like... I assume it's a real mechanic.
It looks like it's a real mechanic. I love the framing of it though, where it's like Andy is like, all right, so I really want to die, and it looks like if just kissing you brings a fucking meteorite from space, like a la Madara Naruto, down into the planet to explode on this onto me, then surely having sex will, like, I don't know, bring about the fucking apocalypse that will tear me atom from atom. So get the clothes off, girl. It's sexin' time. But then Fuuko's like, listen, Andy, my unluck, it only works best when I really like the person I kiss. So if you try to force yourself onto me, I'm not gonna like you. So if you want a surefire death, you can't rape me, pal. It's off the table. Don't even think about it. And then Andy's just like, all right, bet. Then I will make sure you stay alive no matter what. So you will fall in love with me, and then we can fuck.
See,
and that
I like
becomes
the
one of the
last
overarching
half
plots
of
the goals of the show.
I like the last half of that. I don't like the first half. The first half makes me go, oh, he is actually a terrible person. I don't like him anymore.
Actually do it. He wouldn't actually do it.
Okay, what is making you say that? Because because the way the scene is framed, she came up with, she remembered the mechanic of her power, and so she can relay it to him. That was the entire, framing of the scene. And so, like, what element of that moment made you think he wouldn't actually do it? At the end of this
episode,
I know what moment you're bringing up. I know exactly what you're saying.
At the end of this very episode, he then goes, when Fuuko is about to offer herself up to Andy so he can beat Shen in that fight, or at least at the very least not beat her into the fight, to give him the death he deserves without being, taken away by the Union. He's just at the end of it, he's like, "Hey, listen, I would never actually force myself upon you." So like,
He
don't,
doesn't
like,
say
try
that. He does.
He says, like, I would never take advantage of you like that.
He said that he didn't want to do it with a desperate girl. And my read of that scene was basically that, because she had this whole big speech about how she, hey, I just want to do something for you. Like, you're being so kind to me by letting me go into this chair. Like, listen, bro, I'll do this. I'll let you die beforehand. And my read of that was that it moved him so much that he decided that he was like, okay, I'll respect you in that way. Because, there's at the beginning of the episode, there's nothing that indicates that he was not actually going to do it.
Well, at the end of the first step, don't you think if he, really didn't care about her at all, he would just, and he's clearly stronger than her in every possible way. If he really had no moral character code whatsoever, he would just force himself
upon her. It's not that he has no moral
restraint.
character code whatsoever. No, just the scene itself, like the way it's framed, makes it feel like he could have done it.
I feel like
that
maybe it was
per se.
Slightly implied, but I think that was kind of played for a joke, where it said like how quickly he is to go from even if he did end up deciding to go through with it, how quick it's. I think the joke is how quickly he's swayed from it's raping time to okay, if it will make sure that I don't die, if I don't die because of it, then what's the point?
But the reason why he swayed is because it wouldn't kill him. It isn't him just going from one thing to the next all lackadaisical like. It's there's a very clear it's all in the name of getting him killed. So in that sense, I guess he isn't just doing it to do it, right? I mean, he's desperate. And I understand that part of his character, but at the same time, it's just a very uncomfortable scene to me.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny.
I did not think it was kind of funny. You're
the kind of guy who would watch the first episode of Goblin Slayer and then I need a shower and therapy and a sandwich.
Yes. I'm not denying that.
Even the implication of maybe some unconsensual pipping of the diddly doos is enough to send the bagel into the fetal position.
I don't think it's as minor an implication as you're making it out to be. It seemed like he could have totally done it.
A small percentage of it, yeah, but I don't think he would have, acted on, he would not have just thrown himself at her without listening to her consent whatsoever. I don't think that.
I mean, I think he, I think in Andy's head, right, his ideal scenario is that she does consent fully. But yeah. I think he was also desperate enough that he would, just slip it in real quick and then wait for the meteorite to come and finally send him to the underworld. That was the framing of the scene.
I don't think so.
I think you're coping.
No, I have other things to criticize Andy for, that thankfully the show did rectify as it went on, and thank God that it did, because I don't know about you, but the first time that we see Andy naked with the hilarious flapping sensor over his dick, it was funny. By episode 3, I was like, okay, I get it. It's not funny if you keep doing it.
I mean, I never really saw it as a joke. I guess I'm coming out against your criticism now. Yeah, I just never thought it was a huge joke. Because to me, in episode 1, the funny part isn't that he's. I mean, okay, I guess it is kind of funny the first time he gets naked, but as it goes on, it didn't feel like it was drawing attention to it as a joke. It felt like it was just him. Just being himself, right? Just in his natural form. And also because his clothes get torn off constantly whenever he gets decapitated and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, thankfully the author realized, that would probably get annoying if he's just constantly naked in every single fight that he's in. So let's introduce this clothes UMA that breaks out of its containment in the Union, and then it latches on to Andy. But Andy's like, hey, all right, you can form into whatever clothes the person desires. Okay, I want you to become a suit that can always regenerate from no matter what damage happens, and that I can call to you like Thor's hammer whenever I want. And because that happens, and also because some unluck laser shenanigans, now the suit is basically bonded to Andy as his servant, and just is his clothes now.
I
And
didn't
even
100% get the logic behind him being his servant now, because I got
think
that
because he was
some
defeated?
sort of maybe. I don't know. It wasn't really explained that well. I mean, I guess that's the best explanation we have.
I could also just imagine being like, okay, well, I guess I can't beat you. So if I don't, as long as I don't want to go, it's either go back into confinement or become your regenerative suit. So I guess this beats being confined.
I don't know. I feel like that would have been, or I guess should have been indicated more. But it's just taken as a matter of fact that he's tamed now.
Yeah, it is adorable, though, how Fuuko immediately takes to calling him Clothy.
That is
or
fun.
Clothy.
And I do like
And
the
he's
idea
just like, wait,
of...
what? Clothy?
I do like the idea of this UMA that, is his clothing and does regenerate, whenever he gets torn in half and whatnot. So
Yes,
I think it was a
member of the
good choice
team.
overall. Yeah, he's a little sidekick, just a little dude.
Yeah, and with these UMAs, it's a good time to talk about like what the point of the show is now. So when we're having just escaped from the first episode, these government guys who are trying to contain the undead negator because he's rogue, and the Union is this government thing that's targeting rogue negators that are not part of the Union and not under their control, because anything not within their control is considered an enemy to society and nature itself, and it must be contained and neutralized. So the only negators that are allowed to work within the Union and work within society are the members of the Round Table, and there can only be 10 seats. There can never be more or less, without special exceptions like the quest given by the magic book Apocalypse, which is a big left turn that we'll get into in a little bit, where you can unlock new seats. But for right now, there's only 10, and no one can join unless they are killed. So when Andy and Fuuko are met by Shen and Void, who are two members of the Round Table, they're like, okay, so if we want to avoid being hunted down by the Union forever, then our only logical option is to join the Union and just live out the rest of our days, doing whatever you want, so that way we can not be hunted anymore and now have more time to figure out the best way to kill Andy. So they do that. They kill the guy of Unavoidable, and they're trying to kill Shen. They can't do it, but Shen takes a liking to both of them and is like, all right, listen. One of the members of the Round Table is being sent to Russia to check out a UMA there. So go to Russia, and if you do, you can fight them, kill them, and then 2 seats will be open, and you can join up with us.
Yeah, and so they take on Gina, who I just affectionately dub Mushroom Hat Girl in my notes, because I'm bad with names. And I mean, yeah, do you want to just dive right into that arc? Because most of what I
already covered it earlier, but there's one moment
the gist
from it
of
that
it.
I do want to cover, that I didn't pay too much attention to at first, but then thought about it more as the show went on, especially when another similar moment of its ilk happened in the last episode of this block. So Fuuko and Gina, before they realize that they're enemies, are chatting together by a lake, and they're just painting the countryside. They're painting the landscape. And at first, Fuuko's a little embarrassed about what she wants to, paint, and Gina's like, "Yeah, just paint whatever you want, bro." And so Fuuko reveals her painting, and Gina is surprised by it because she looks at it and is like, "Hey, Fuuko, what are those little twinkly things around the moon?" And Fuuko's like, I don't know. I just thought the sky looked like empty with just the moon there, so I thought I'd give those little twinkly things to make the moon like give it feel less lonely. And Gina gets a smile on her face, and that's like she acts like she doesn't know what stars are, but then you look up at the sky and realize, huh, there are no stars in this night sky that she just painted. I wonder, like, do stars not exist in this universe? And then in the final episode of this block, when Victor, who is this alter ego that we don't know 100% about, but apparently is the alter ego of Andy, when he takes the little cork out of his head and unleashes all of the lifetime of memories all at once. He asks when day and what year it is, and then he asks what day of the week it is, and then Shin's like, day of the week? What the fuck are you talking about, bro? So that implies like, so do like the days of the week not exist either? And because I asked this because the show makes it a point to always tell us what day it is, but never what day of the week it is. We always know that it's August. This like whole thing's been taking place in August, like August 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. We gotta kill the spoiled demon by the 31st of August, or the penalty will be set in place. And so there are no stars, there are no days of the week. Like, is this like what's going on here? Are like we are dealing with enemies who like can negate and also, you know, represent concepts of the world. Can like losing a fight like take away the concept of the world?
I mean, maybe in some cases. So far, no, because, I mean, losing the concept of change would be pretty devastating, I imagine. But, I mean, I like it because it's that sort of completely random and insane world building that, like, I've always had this idea in my head of just randomly in a story I'm writing, insert a 5th season other than summer, spring, fall, winter. Just randomly having it there, and it lasts like 2 weeks and is completely dumb and does something stupid to the world, and then it just fades, and it's just there for literally no reason other than funny. And it has sort of that vibe to it. Although in this show, I think it's amounting to something more, because, oh, there's no stars, there's no days of the week, and yeah, it's definitely an altered version of our world.
The book does point out that there are penalties to not completing the quest, and he says failure to complete all 6 quests by August 31st will result in the creation of a new UMA, the UMA Galaxy. So that's like, what does that mean? Because the only UMAs that we've encountered thus far are the clothes one and the spoil one, and we know that they embody concepts of the world. So the clothes one, you know, it changes to the shape of clothing that your heart most desires. You know, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. And the spoil one represents, you know, decay and the returning to the earth of all living organisms. So what does the concept of the galaxy mean? Is like, what was that going to do when it's created? And how do we beat it?
Yeah, and I'm fairly sure they're risking having UMA Galaxy appear because they're like, oh, we can't, or I guess the leader of all the people was like, yo, we can't beat some of those other guys, so we're just gonna let Galaxy appear. We're gonna build our forces until then. So we might end up seeing UMA Galaxy probably soon, considering he was named.
Yeah, and the reason that she's going out of her way to build all these forces and take all these risks is because the ultimate secret goal of the Union is to take all the quests given by Apocalypse and to kill the being on the other side that is giving out those requests. And so they describe as the god of this world. Undead Unluck confirmed JRPG. The ultimate goal is to kill God.
That is a very fun goal for them to have. And I guess since we've sort of moved on to the Union, I really like what got me hyped immediately in episode 5 is Fuuko's desire to change the way the Union works. Because the Union has the idea, basically, that, okay, we need to follow this book, we need to get rid of the Negators, the UMAs, which the UMAs appear to be more so monsters and not necessarily people, whereas the Negators are people with powers who negate stuff. And so Fuuko's idea is, okay, well, we can spare the Negators, right? We don't have to kill other human beings. And the leader of the Union says, nuh-uh, no, we need to keep following the book, yo. We need to kill God. And that's an ideological clash.
Yeah, but and there is a way for Fuuko to instill change within the Union, and Jui's the leader is like, okay, like if you want us to do what you say, here's what you're gonna have to do, because fighting amongst the round table members is strictly prohibited. So the only way to rise up in the ranks is to take quests from Apocalypse, the living book demon, whatever. And the more quests you do, and the more UMAs you slay, and the more negators you find, the more points you get, and the more you rank up within the round table. And whoever has the number 1 seat in the table dictates how the Union functions and what their goals are. So Juiz is number 1. She is the leader, and she says we gotta take these quests, and we gotta kill God, and we gotta kill the negators to do so. We gotta hunt them down and subjugate them, or neutralize them, or whatever. And Fuuko's like, hey, that's kind of fucked up, because, you know, some of us, we didn't ask for these powers. We just, some of us want to live a normal life unburdened by the, the weight of our powers. Because Fuuko, sure, power unluck makes it so that anyone she has skin-to-skin physical contact with will suffer a stroke of unluck, and they get anything from like broken bones to getting knocked out to even just straight up fucking dying, like her parents did in that plane explosion. So she just wants to live a normal life as best she can, even in spite of her unluck disability. So she was like, well, I want this, and I'm sure there are other people like me, other negators in the world like me, who must feel a similar way. So I want to instill this change within the Union. And so now her goal, now that she is a part of the Union, is to work her way up, take in all these quests, and take the number 1 spot from Juiz. That way she can impose her will upon the round table.
Something I find interesting, and I dearly hope this will be explored more, and I think it will, because the negators are human, and we see reluctance from other characters to kill, to kill humans, right? Andy, there's a moment in episode 2 where he hesitates to kill Shen, and Shen points that out at him. And, Fuuko, after seeing that Gina died, she's, she feels a little bad about it. She's like, yo, that's kind of messed up, especially because it was her unluck that killed her. And part of the reason why she has such a drive to change the Union is because, she's killed countless people unintentionally over the course of her life. She has this guilt, this burden she carries. And I think she wants to make right, essentially, by saving all these people that usually would die, because she especially has a value for keeping people and people like her alive. And, because she's killed people before, unintentionally, and once intentionally with Gina. But, I feel like if that
she had her
guilt
way, she would have spared her. But
yeah, in an ideal world, she would.
Much like Senator Armstrong and Ryden, it did in fact have to be this way.
Yeah, in her ideal world, everyone gets spared. She doesn't, and I imagine, because right now we're fighting UMAs, what happens when we get to the negators? What happens when Fuuko is put in more and more scenarios where she must kill a negator in order to get points, in order to rise up the ranks? And, how will that tug at her conscience? It's a very interesting potential arc to have, and I think
would she be willing to kill a few negators in order to get enough points to rise to the rank of number 1 to make sure no other negators have to die?
I feel like that's the main thing that interests me about Fuuko's character, because it's easy to forget this, but she was suicidally depressed in the first episode, like racked with guilt from the things she has unintentionally done. And, we don't see too much of that in the following 7 episodes, other than that she is a pushover and is easy to, have your way with. But, I feel like when we revisit that, she's going to become a much more interesting character to me. Because so far, like, I think Fuuko was at her most interesting in episode 1.
Oh, classic Crunchy. He thinks that people are at the most interesting when they're suicidally depressed.
Why am I not surprised that you said something like that?
Although
it is true.
The Sangatsu no Lion fan likes people when they're at their most depressed.
Hey, I will say Kizu Monogatari has the best plot out of any Monogatari. And if you know what happens in Kizu, I won't spoil it for Neon in case he doesn't know, but if you know what happens in Kizu, that does track.
I rest my case then. The prosecution rests.
Yeah, but I really, because I connect with themes of guilt a lot, and I want to see that explored more, because it's right there. Huh?
I said why, because you're white?
Even worse, I'm a white male.
All the white guilt. It's too much to bear.
And yeah, it's a really interesting character trait for Fuuko to have, and I want to see it explored more. And once again, I like the idea of upending the ideology of this union. Really, I think episode 5 is when I finally got hooked on the plot of this show, where I was like, I see what you're doing, I see your schmoves.
Plot starts.
Yeah. Like, before that, it's sort of... episode 2, Andy's goal is literally, we're gonna ball, we're gonna go out to the countryside, we're just gonna go wherever the road takes us and try to avoid getting tracked down. Which doesn't last long.
Yeah, they get immediately tracked down because they got fucking teleporting technology. They have satellites all over the dang place.
Alright, something that just an offhanded line in one of the episodes, I forget which one it even is. There's an offhanded line where someone's like, Andy was off our radar for 10 years because he was hidden. I'm just like, couldn't you hide wherever that was again? Like, he only recently reemerged in their system when he found Fuuko. And I'm just wondering to myself, can't we just go there? Like, wherever that was, however he did that, couldn't we just do it again? Wouldn't that be his first thought?
I think they made a point of saying in episode 2 that the little stunt you did with the meteor made it really easy to track your whereabouts, because like you can't exactly hide that from space.
Yeah. They did say that, but I'm also just like, okay, but you don't have to get on the Union necessarily. I don't know. Maybe it's just his strategy, or I guess their strategy of choice. Although Fuuko doesn't get the resolve to change the Union until episode 5, so I don't know. I feel like it at least should have been mentioned.
They made the decision of being like, you know what? If we can just join the Union, then we won't have to be hunted so much.
Yeah, they did make that decision, but I'm just saying, whatever hiding spot that was, it's out there, it's available. You could at least bring up the idea, or at least could have brought it up earlier. Now, obviously, Fuuko has resolve and an ideological reason to stay in the Union. But I'm just saying, it was an option before.
I feel like we gotta ask the biggest question of Undead Unluck. Fuuko Izumo, would?
I would not, because I would die.
Okay, but hear me out. If you just never let go of her.
Okay, so that would be an extremely limited life. Okay, listen. Are you going to really tell me, like, you're gonna sleep next to her and just pray that you don't roll over in your sleep?
I might have to invent a mechanism where I just like lock my arm, like I tuck my arms into it around her, and they just like get stuck, or I don't know, maybe
Just tie your hands
if
together.
worst comes to worst, yeah, get the hot glue gun, get the soldering iron.
I don't know. It feels like your entire life would be inconvenienced just to get some.
It would, but at the same time, she is insane. Well, maybe not insanely. I'm exaggerating for the sake of comedy, of course, but she is very pretty.
If she kept the hair, I would consider it.
Of course, classic
Classic
all
crunchy.
short
yes,
hair
yes.
women are not valid crunchy.
Hey, this is my stance. All right, and I'm never going back on it. That's right. You're not valid. You're not. You don't even exist, frankly.
you don't deserve rights. You don't deserve to be recognized in the sense.
Are you even human?
Registry.
Like, I have to ask that question. Do you still count as human if you're a girl and cut your hair short?
You have the societal pass to grow your hair out as long as you want, and you choose to have it at male length. Get over yourself.
Okay, but on a more serious note.
Last thing I'll say about it though is that canonically Fuuko does have a lot to grab onto.
Yeah, I mean, Andy even said, "Oh, yo, your stomach's spilling out a little bit," which is a very specific detail.
I can't help it. Food's been very tasty all over lately because she's been traveling.
Yeah.
I think there's a part where he just straight up like launches his head up her under her shirt and like through, and then regenerates while tucked into her shirt. So he wears her like a backpack.
Yeah, that definitely happened, and she is not exactly happy about this turn of events, even if there was a strategic purpose. Which I guess gets into another point that I was going to bring up earlier, but didn't get the chance to.
Is Fuuko just a vehicle for fan service?
Okay, I don't exactly like the way that it treats some of... Okay, so Andy, he's basically trying to trigger different strokes of unluck with her. So there's this whole running gag about, oh, I'll touch you in an even more private spot than last time, or, you know, in a different way, or I'll wear you like a backpack, which, to be fair, is a funny idea, but then he shoves his face in her tits, which, I mean, I was less fond of. But I'm just thinking throughout these interactions, right? I know this would mess with the plot of the show, and I'm not necessarily saying it should have made this change from a plot perspective, but how much better would these interactions be if she was okay with it?
I mean, if we're talking about like consent and whatnot, then yeah, that would make it better. But then
they'd be more charming.
It would be more charming, but then that would kind of run in the face of the whole I have to like you a lot in order for the unluck.
I literally said that. I'm saying take the plot out of consideration because I understand what it'll do to the plot. But
I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you like then it just becomes a story of well, I feel like then it kind of degrades Fuuko even more because then even though she's into it, she's just a vehicle to be used for the fan service. And the only difference is that now it's consensual.
Okay, but is there really that... hold on, you're saying it makes it worse. Is consensual fan service really that much worse than non-consensual fan service?
I would much... In like, the normal... In your average show, I would prefer it if everyone were DTF with each other and, you know, one party was not harassing the other into, you know, sneaking the occasional panty shot or boob glance, but in the context of this show, it's and also they never show Fuuko to be like outright like made uncomfortable by it, and I know you can just chalk that up to, well, of course they can, otherwise it'd get really weird, but they never have Fuuko be like bad touch, stranger danger, because they have her understand that, like, okay, like as much as it's like, you know, weird that it's happening, I get that it has to happen in order for my power to trigger.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
And like it also
I just feel like
does
it
kind
could
of, like,
have been done in a way that I
the
feel
thing
like
that
it could have been
does
done
make it, like,
differently.
slightly
I
more
don't think this
palatable
was
is
necessary.
the thing that
my point.
she is a bit of a pushover, where she is like she bounces back and forth between, like, she doesn't want to be, you know, coerced or harassed into doing like sexy things, but she is not like she's very vulnerable to romantic gestures. Like we see
Yeah.
her blush at Andy's words and his actions multiple times.
I mean, I feel like the entire gag of her being a pushover would honestly be funnier than just, oh hey, Andy harassed her again, slash, you know, touched her in a spot that she. Yeah, I mean, you say she isn't like shown expressly being super uncomfortable over it, and that is true on some level, but she also isn't down for it, if that makes sense.
She's
Like,
not
she's still-
down, but like I feel like it's more of a matter she understands the situation. It's either like, oh, okay, either I cling to you like a backpack and press my chest up against your back to give you the unluck, or I get my head cut off by Mushroom Hat Sawblade, which I know you could just say is a narrative excuse. But like for what the story that we're telling, I I agree that maybe it could be handled in a more tasteful way, but I don't think the way that we have now is like, oh my god, it's like the fucking worst.
It's not
she's
the
having
worst.
all
I mean,
her-
there are so many worse things. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that this show is
Fuuko, it's
ever
4
the
p.m.
worst.
Time for your daily non-consensual sex so I can power up. Yeah, yes,
I mean, yeah, there's
Andy.
always worse.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't necessarily. I guess the main thing I don't like is how much of a front seat it takes in their dynamic for, I'd say, the first, I'd say 3 or 4 episodes of this block. It definitely
I
gets
will
toned
say-
down as it goes on.
Yeah,
But if
will
it was
say, I
more
will be-
occasional,
if it-
I'd be more accepting of it.
If I will say, if it continues, if we go on like the rest of the season, and it's like nothing but like every time it powers up, it has to be non-consensual. Like, oh, I've stuck my head right down your ass crack, and motorboating your cheeks to power up the unlock. That like, if it keeps doing that, then it would kind of fly in the face of they're trying to connect with each other. It would make more sense within the narrative that they've set up to have Fuuko, just, normally touch him, or like, do the thing where, like in the opening, or where all the different shots of her being carried by him, or like, riding on his back, like a Banjo-Kazooie situation, or like a Blaster Master and the thing that rides. I forget what the other guy's name, but the thing for like Mad Max, the symbiote. Have it be kind of like that, where it's like, okay, I will power you up by, giving me a piggyback ride, or you carry me bridal style, where it's a lot more symbiotic, and less, I'm now going to, sneak my hand and shove like right up your pussy.
I feel like what might have justified this to me, and I just came up with this idea. If we have like a scene where it's almost like banter back and forth between, like, they're in a difficult situation, and Fuuko's about to be in mortal danger, and he's like, listen, just let me touch or do whatever whatever personal thing
Let
he
me
needs
cop a
to
feel
do
your tits,
to make it,
please.
and there's like this huge banter back and forth until it gets down to the wire, and then she's like, all right, fine, we can do this to save our lives. And then from that point forward, it's like, it's clear that she understands, hey, this is what we need to do for the situation. Like, she's more okay with it and less, shows less resistance, just like understands the situation, is also, kind of falling in love with Andy because she's a pushover once again, and falls for anyone who does anything, like any dude who does anything polite to her.
I feel like that would only be more okay if we develop a little like sub thread of her character where she is finding herself more and more attracted to Andy, and now she is either
I feel
one of
like
two
we
things
do
happen.
have
Either
this
she,
sub-thread.
well, yeah, but like actually dedicate time to it, to like have some moments being like, oh shit, I actually am falling for Andy, and have her like have it go down one of two ways. Either she's now embarrassed to get physical with him because like, oh, like now I like this guy so much, I like now, even though I've already seen him naked like so much that it doesn't affect me at all anymore, and he's pretty much seen everything of my body except for my pussy. Uh, then she just starts getting embarrassed because, oh man, no, it's the guy I like. No, don't look at my boob. Or she gets so like starts falling in love with him, and she gets like into the like the sexy part of it. And she's like, oh my gosh, I might get to have like the. She's so enamored with having someone to share romantic and sexual feelings with now when she was unable to before. She's like getting turned on by it, and then she's like more okay with this. Like, oh well, I would rather you not, but I guess we have no other choice. And just lifting up her shirt while saying it, with like and like trying to hold back a smile.
I feel like what this show could and definitely should, like the route it should go down, is getting Fuuko to a point where she doesn't want Andy to die, and so she'll be fully in love with him, but then will do her best to hide it because she doesn't want him to go, oh, okay, time to bed you. I mean, now I'm gonna die, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go full kill la kill on. That's it. I have to get naked. That will empower me. To empower Andy. But I would appreciate it if the show, from as it goes on, dials down the non-consensual.
Oh, I would
ones.
massively approve of
I don't
that.
have a
I
problem
want
with
it
that
to
start
happen now.
To show as like a gradient, to see how far we've come. If it keeps going on, it's like, okay, well then no progress is being made then.
I mean, I guess on one level it is almost a little necessary given the setup of the show. Like I said, just get it over with as soon as possible. Have the banter. Have her understand that it's okay. We're saving our skins here, and then as quickly as possible, make her fall in love, and make her more okay with it. Or at the very least, if not fall in love, make her not resistant to it. Like make her actually fine with it.
I will say, as much as she is the emotional heart of the show, I do hope that she gets some kind of like power or a way to fight without Andy that allows her to have more of a stake in the battles of the show. Because I feel like you could then reduce her to a sex object more if she doesn't have more, because she has the ideological stake but not the action stake.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that was going to happen now that we're in the Union. Oh, okay, now I have to get strong, because we're doing tough missions in the Union. So, I mean, I hope it happens. Ideally, it does.
Is there anything else we want to talk about, or is that just it now?
I mean, I guess I can try to sum up my thoughts on the show and why
we
few
neglected to bring up
episodes-
the SpongeBob jump scare.
That there was in fact a SpongeBob jump scare, which I messaged you about on the hosts only chat. Just all caps SpongeBob jump scare.
Yeah, I was expecting an anime artist rendition of SpongeBob. I was not expecting just straight up they got a PNG render of SpongeBob off Google Images and just pixelated it.
Literally censoring it so as to not infringe on copyright. It was a funny visual to me.
It's moments like these always gets me curious to see, because in America, SpongeBob's a fucking cultural icon, especially to our generation and the millennials. And what came after? Came before the millennials?
Before millennials, it was Gen X. I'm pretty sure, because millennials are Gen
X
Y.
Okay, I forget. Does Gen X encapsulate the late 90s, early 2000s? That millennials?
Like late 70s throughout most of the 80s, I'm pretty sure. Or
okay,
no, probably
then,
a little
then
before
millennials,
that.
Then. Never mind. Just millennials then. A cultural icon here in the West. I wonder how big in Japan SpongeBob is.
I mean, there is. We do know that Westaboos exist, and
Yeah, it's just
they're probably hardcore into SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's just like this. I think this is the only time, and I'm sure there's probably examples that exist I just haven't seen because I haven't seen literally every anime ever made. But I feel like this is the first time I've seen SpongeBob directly referenced in an anime.
Definitely the first that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's just a neat little thing.
Other than that, I guess I can try to explain my overall thoughts on like why the first few episodes were such a valley for me. Comparatively, of course.
Wait, real quick. This is the last thing I want to say before I let you do your thing. I remember that we have to point this out while we're talking about Fuuko. She is a confirmed canon cuck because she does let Andy marry the zombie girl and gives her consent to it.
Oh, I forgot to mention the zombie girl. Yeah, you know what? I can put that up in all my overall overarching thoughts on the show. So, to wrap up, the first few episodes were, I guess, a valley for me because Fuuko and Andy's dynamic wasn't as lovable as I was expecting. So much of it was putting front and center the whole, non-consensual stuff, which is yucky. I don't like it. I don't think this show does it in a way where I can overlook it, given it's, something like Monogatari, to use the obvious example, where, okay, the show can Stockholm Syndrome me into accepting that, because the dialogue is so charming. I don't think the dialogue is really all that special so far. It's more charming than your average show, but...
I do point and laugh every time Fuuko goes into crybaby screaming mode.
As you should. But to me, I guess their dynamic gets better with time just because, first of all, there's less non-consent, and secondly, there's just more time spent with each other. I think they're, becoming more and more friendly, and I feel like the ideal version of Fuuko and Andy, and I know it can't start with this due to plot reasons, but I feel like what we should eventually be aiming for is, like, bros for life, plus benefits, plus they're, like, gonna date any moment. And they just always have each other's back. They're as close as you can get. And I feel like that sort of duo dynamic would be perfect for this show. And obviously, yeah, once again, it's not gonna start with that. But preferably, like, by the latter third of this season, we have something like that going on. I feel like that would be perfect. And as for, the other reasons why I think it picked up, it got a plot. The first thing of a well-defined plot we have and a well-defined goal. And also, I just think the locale of Longing USA, a made-up city, obviously, but I think that location is great. First of all, it's in, I'm pretty sure, Colorado, just some desert part of...
No, it's in Nevada.
Nevada. It was in Nevada. Yeah, you're right. But basically just desert United States, which is, I've been there, and ever since I've been to that part of the United States, it lives rent-free in my head. It is, like, my ideal place to... I'm not sure if I
want to go to Vegas and blow my life savings.
Well, I don't want to go to Vegas and blow my life savings. I just want to stay out in the desert for, like, at least a month. Just stay there in New Mexico.
In the desert.
Blow my life savings. Yeah. Where I just love the locale. And the zombie bride is such a good running gag. She's very oddly cute, where it's like, you see her skin and it's rotting, you're like, oh, that's a zombie. That's gross.
Fellas,
then you see how earnest she is and how adorable she is, and her vacant white eyes.
To be warm to warm your heart?
She certainly warms mine. Like, seeing her in the wedding veil.
If you just put a bag over her head.
No, don't put a bag over her head. She like... Did you see those
at
white
least wipe
eyes?
the blood dripping from her eye sockets and her mouth.
Yeah, true. Listen, that's all you need to do. She's perfect to wed.
She might have a little rigor mortis setting in, but
She's perfect. She's an absolute treat for that arc, and I love her. She brought a lot to the table. Fight was good enough. I liked it. I like hearing about Shen's powers. I think the show is very much picking up. And I think that arc so far is mostly carried by its locale and, learning about the kids hiding and, learning about how everything works. I think that's the best part of that arc so far, and I've loved seeing it.
Yeah, and we've left off on a cliffhanger with Andy's new form known as Victor, who is so powerful he's just seems to be immune to negators entirely. It's just shown that Shen can't affect him with his power at all, and Fuuko's unluck has no effect. So now the rest of the round table has shown up, and they're gonna try to fight him back, and we'll just see how that goes next time.
Yeah, this is definitely the excuse to get all the powers of the round table out and visible, and probably not explain all of them or
I
any
hope we
of
don't.
them.
I really hope we don't have them all literally explained in this one fight with because there's no way that anyone's. I hope not, because there's no stakes to the stakes are not nearly high enough to warrant literally everyone else's powers being explained and coming out to the forefront.
I think it's just here to do a bunch of teasing at future powers and show, okay, like if you can remember this fight, you can maybe figure out what their deal is, or at least have some hints at it. And I think that's a fine enough idea.
So I guess while we should do what everyone else is doing, and compare this to the other shows this season. How's it stack up to Frieren and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2?
It is the weakest of the three so far. I think its personality innately resonates with me more than Jujutsu Kaisen, but and granted, it could overtake given enough time, but as it stands, it's had a few weak moments, and although it's picking up, it is definitely not at that level yet. My investment is not as high in this show.
Can anyone in this show beat Gojo?
No. Actually, wait. Just maybe, Andy in his Victor form. Maybe? I'm not sure.
Can he get past infinity? Can you reverse infinity with Shen's power? Can you make infinity the opposite?
True. If Shen and Victor teamed up for whatever reason, he could undo Gojo's powers. Except Victor resisted
Can you undo infinity?
So, because Victor resisted the powers, so maybe Gojo would just be too strong for Shen to affect. I think Gojo would actually win.
Yeah, as we all know, Gojo is the pinnacle. He is the honor one, and he is incapable of taking any L's.
Yeah,
or he is our god.
And if you want to become God, subscribe to our channel.
Yes, please. If you like this podcast, let us know what you think of it down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss another episode of Castaway Anime. Subscribe to Crutchy's channel, link below. Subscribe to both our side channels. Got some fun stuff coming out. Merry Christmas, by the way. This should be coming out just before Christmas, so how'd you like the Christmas episode of Castaway Anime? Very thematically appropriate, I know.
Yeah, and I should have a video out right before Christmas as well, so be sure to check that out. It's about Scott Pilgrim. It'll hopefully be out by the time this is out. I actually haven't checked when this is supposed to be out, so maybe scratch that.
This should be coming up tomorrow.
Oh,
the 22nd.
Okay, there's no way it'll be out that quickly, but it'll be out within the coming days.
Yeah, and that will do her for this episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And you'll see us next time.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.